Hi, it's Mark from Top Local. We're here with Bernie Pawlik, Pawlik Automotive in Vancouver. Vancouver's best auto service experience, 21-time winners of Best Auto Repair in Vancouver, only 21 times. It's a lot of years of doing a fantastic job for the residents of Vancouver and area. People come from a long ways actually just to get their vehicles serviced at Pawlik, and it's because they do a good job. Today we're talking about a 2010 Nissan Cube that had some maintenance and repair issues. What was happening with this Rubik's Cube?
Rubik's Cube. That's a good name for it. I just got to start with a picture, of the car because it's such a unique looking vehicle. This Cube. I don't know if it's ugly or good looking, but it's certainly exceptionally practical use of space. It's a box car. Let's put it that way. So. There's our picture for the day. So yeah, the vehicle. So this has been a regular client of ours for many years. Actually, we've serviced this car since new. Came in for a maintenance service, a B service. It had some of the complaints. There's some clunks in the steering and suspension area of the vehicle, or when you're going over bumps, and it was due for a B service.
So you mentioned clunks. What did you find was causing that?
There was some worn out control arm bushings in the front, and also sway bar end links, and the upper strut plates were worn out as well on the vehicle. So there was a number of items causing clunks and thunks when you go over bumps.
So was that just replacing the struts and tie rod ends, or?
Exactly. In the case of this vehicle, the struts seem to be in pretty good shape. So we just ended up replacing the strut plates. And, like I said, the struts felt really firm, even though the vehicle is getting on in age and probably around the time you should replace them. It just made sense to do the plates. It's not that difficult to do of a job. And the control arms we replaced, what wears out with control arms are the bushings. The bushings like a flexible rubber attachment piece that it's bolted between the frame of the vehicle and the control arm, or the end of the control arm and the steering knuckle, although there's often a ball joint at that end. But these, there's a lot of movement. Eventually, these joints or the bushings tear or crack, and then they get excessive play and cause thunking and bumping sounds. So sometimes you can change just the bushing. Other times, the whole control arm needs to be replaced. And sometimes, even if you can do the bushing, it makes more sense to do the control arm because the ball joint may wear out soon. So why not just do the whole thing and then it's complete and done?
So during a B service, that's your more extensive service item. You also look at maintenance items like spark plugs, fluids, lubricating basically checking everything. What else did you find in this?
Yeah, so we basically cover all of that. Now, things like spark plugs, we don't necessarily visually inspect them. On this vehicle, spark plugs are actually difficult to access. So we look at maintenance, and we look at manufacturers' maintenance recommendations, and we look at our own history, or if it's a new client to us, we find out from the client, do you know if these have been done recently? Other items like fluids, of course, we inspect them. We do this B service is a comprehensive inspection, so we also do a wheel off brake inspection, look at everything quite thoroughly, lubricate door locks, hinges, and latches, those kind of things that kind of keep the vehicle in good order. So when you pop the hood, it pops up, or you open the doors, there's not a creaking sound. Those are kind of preventative maintenance items we do.
And you guys follow a checklist to do this, right?
We have a checklist, and we do this with our electronic inspection, which I think we've talked about in previous podcasts or videos. And we follow a pretty thorough checklist of things to look at.
What is it, 138 point something like that?
With you, we don't have a point number. The inspection we used to do had 150 points on it. This one probably has either more or less depending on the kind of car we work on. So it really depends on what the vehicle is. But as I said, there's a very thorough list that pretty well covers everything. It doesn't cover diagnosis. We may have clients who come in, hey, my check engine light's on. In certain vehicles, we will include a vehicle scan, and we can give at least a code report on, hey, this is a particular code. But to actually test and diagnose that, it is an additional cost. So. But a lot of other things we do on a B service, where it's, as long as it's reasonably accessible, we will test the battery and charging system with test equipment. So again, you get a report on that kind of thing, and pressure test the cooling system. So again, if there's hoses or things that are about to fail, we can find those kind of things too.
And did you find anything else that was due in that department on the Rubik's Cube?
Yeah, spark plugs were due for replacement. We did those, and there was a couple of other fluids that were discolored and needed to be done. So we also serviced those as well at the same time.
And how many kilometers were on this vehicle?
About 200. It's actually got a fair amount. The vehicle's actually in good shape for the age, and the owner's been pretty good in terms of doing maintenance on it. I can't say quite perfect. There's been times where oil changes have been left a lot longer than they should have, and the vehicle's survived well. It's not as something I recommend to anyone. You should always do your oil changes on time or sooner. There's just so many expensive things to go wrong, but some people do tend to push the envelope, and this one has survived well so far.
And how are Nissan Cubes for reliability?
Well, I can't say we worked on a ton of them because there aren't a ton of them around. But based on this one, this has been a really good car. There's been really very few issues of any sort other than just normal wear and tear. We put a few sets of tires on it and a few sets of brakes, and this is the first time we've done any sort of major suspension work on the vehicle. So overall, it's a pretty good car. I think it'll doing proper maintenance on it should last for quite a lot longer.
So there you go. If you have a Nissan product in Vancouver, the guys to see are Pawlik Automotive. For maintenance and repairs, you can reach them at 604-327-7112. To book your appointment, you have to call and book ahead. They're always busy. Check out the website, pawlikautomotive.com. On YouTube, of course, there's over 350 videos on there, all makes and models and types of repairs. Pawlik Auto Repair is their search term. And of course, thanks so much for listening and watching to the podcast. We really appreciate it. Share it with your friends. Thanks, Bernie.
Thanks, Mark. And thanks for watching.